The debate on climate change is on the table again. The Cervantes Institute in Sydney is holding one of the events organized by the European Union, taking place at the same time around 7 cities in Australia. They celebrate European Climate Diplomacy Day. After the screening of a documentary, a panel discussion takes place to debate about main global climate issues.
The European Union has designated today as European Climate Diplomacy Day, and the objective is to raise awareness around the world of the upcoming Paris Conference on climate change, the important conference in December, at which over 190 countries will take part, including the EU, obviously. It's to raise awareness of the issues that are at stake, which are critical to the entire world. To humanity. There are probably no more important issues or no more important issue out there at the moment that needs to be addressed and resolved.
Climate change is not a faith. It's not something you believe in or you don't, like you believe in God or you don't. You know, like as a scientist, we have very clear evidence that points to a phenomenon that is happening. And there's so many different types of effects. You know, like for example, extreme events like heat waves are already impacting human lives, you know. Like you can see the number of deaths when there's a heat wave increases dramatically, you know, and we know that the number of heat waves is increasing because of global climate change. So that's one of the impacts. There's impacts, you know, to human health, there's impact to, you know, biodiversity.
The kind of issues that are at stake in terms of global warming, obviously, as a starting point. Then you take from that rising sea levels, the impact on flora and fauna, the impact on living conditions, and that overall objective. It's a complicated, complex subject, and what we're trying to do is to engage public discussion, engage with groups, as I've said to you, across the country, to increase that, to spread that debate and spread the discussion, so there's a great understanding of what's involved. In that way, you create momentum towards the conference in Paris, and in that way, you increase the likelihood of getting the kind of result, clear result, that humanity needs, the world needs, in order to address the real dangers and real threats that it faces through global warming.
And obviously the first thing is stop emissions, you know, but even if we stop now, there's still going to be an effect that we're going to feel through the next few decades.
What's the role of the companies against the climate change and profit? So you need to have the balance. So without the balance, I mean, because job creation means also, increasing in revenues and economy increase for the country or for the local communities. So the stakeholder involvement, it's really important. So and it cannot be achieved only by the government. So the private companies are I would say, one of the important pieces of the puzzle on all this complicated puzzle.
Cities play a major role, I believe, in helping to be part of the solution to achieve our global climate change goals. Cities, you see globally, are the ones that are taking action. It's where the people live. Most people live in cities around the world, and therefore it's a place for action.
And it is a global problem that requires global solutions.
We all have a responsibility. It's not just for bureaucrats, it's not just for diplomats, it's not just for negotiators. You've seen here this evening, there are scientists involved in this, industry is involved in this, NGOs and other groups. So we have to stay engaged.
We are all part of the solution, but also part of the problem. I tell the story that I used to tell to my daughters, which is about the big fire in the forest. And you have the big bird going to the river and being dribs and drabs of water and drops. And every time, 10 times, and he came by and the elephant was there doing nothing. And the elephant said, "Why are you doing this?" I say, "Look, mate, I'm doing my best. I'm doing my share. If you could start helping, that would help a lot." So, and that's basically what my message is. I mean, if every single one like us start doing something, we'll get there. I'm a true believer that, we will be totally irresponsible if you don't do anything now to prevent the tomorrow's disasters.
Why is that important? It's a question of survival.
The United Nations Climate Change Conference will be held in Paris in December this year.